أنا دكتور خالد وليد، ربان سفينة النجاة إلى شواطئ بكة القدس. I am Dr. Khaled Waleed, the captain of the ship of salvation to the shores of Baka, Jerusalem.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're taking a look at the name Qur'an, which is much more than just a name.
Yeah.
It's like this huge concept
Yeah.
that is tied to Al-Quds, Jerusalem, ancient civilizations, and even utopia.
It's really interesting how so much meaning and symbolism can be packed into just one word.
Right.
And the sources we have, which bring together like Islamic and secular historical perspectives,
Right.
take us on this really cool journey through language, through scripture and history to sort of uncover these layers of meaning.
And what I find really intriguing is that Qur'an may not be what we think it is at all.
Exactly.
It might point to an idea much older and more profound than we ever even considered.
Right.
So to start unpacking all of this, I think we need to break down the name Qur'an into its three Arabic components.
Okay.
Dainin and in.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so first up we have Qur'an, which means justice or divine law.
Right.
Which like immediately I feel sets a very powerful tone.
Yeah.
It suggests that there's a system of balance and fairness.
Right.
Some kind of like a divinely ordained order.
Absolutely. And to further emphasize this point, the sources actually cite a verse from the Quran.
Oh, cool.
Surah al-Hujurat,
Okay.
49.9, instructs believers to establish justice and to act justly when resolving conflicts. This suggests that justice isn't just a concept, but a way of life.
Right.
It's a fundamental principle for like a flourishing society.
I just love how one single word can connect us back to these deep ethical principles.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So let's move on to the next component.
Okay.
We have N, which symbolizes none.
Right.
Now, this represents Baka Jerusalem Al-Quds, specifically the sacred rock. And our sources point to a verse from Surah Al-Qalam 68.1, where none is linked to creation and divine light.
It's powerful imagery, isn't it? Like Al-Quds is not just a holy site, but a starting point, the origin from which like everything unfolds.
I know, it's kind of blowing my mind already.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got one more component to go.
Yeah.
This means clay.
It does.
And this brings us back down to earth, literally.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're made from the earth.
Right.
And specifically, our sources reference the creation of humankind from clay, which is described in Surah Al-Mu'minin, 23.1 Bill.
And that connection between humanity's origin and the sacred land, it's just beautiful and profound.
It really is.
It highlights our inherent connection to the earth and to this specific place, which holds so much weight spiritually.
So much weight. Okay, so when we combine all three components, Qur'an starts to paint this incredible picture, right?
Yeah.
It's a land of unwavering justice, a center of divine light and governance, emanating from Baka, Jerusalem, Al-Quds, where the sacred rock resides.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And to add even more depth to this picture, Surah Al-Imran 3.9697 emphasizes the significance of Baka as the first house established for humanity, a blessed place, and a guide for all worlds. This just adds another layer to this idea of Qur'an as a concept that encompasses not just a physical location, but an ideal way of life, rooted in divine law.
It's like Qur'an encapsulates not just a place, but a whole way of being, a divinely ordained blueprint for society.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
Our sources suggest that this land isn't just a place, it's a home for the Nubala.
Okay.
The nobles, the prophets, and messengers entrusted with spreading justice and light.
Wow, this is where things are getting really interesting.
Right. So the link between Nubala and Anbiya, which means prophets, it isn't just a coincidence. It points to their leadership role in this sacred land.
I see.
And the sources even highlight specific prophets mentioned in the Quran. Like Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub in Surah Sad 38.4546.
And get this, the Quran mentions these prophets as residing in Dikra al-Dar, which our sources identify as Baka, Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
It's incredible to think about these figures shaping the very foundation of justice and righteousness in this land, creating a model for future generations.
I know. And speaking of these inspiring figures, our sources highlight Muhammad al-Fatih, a messenger of Allah, who cleansed Al-Quds from corruption, and he is counted among these noble prophets. Right?
Of course.
Wow, I love that connection. It emphasizes that importance of leadership that is grounded in justice and divine guidance.
Absolutely. And Surah Al-Imran 3.18 sort of backs this up, stating that Allah, the angels, and those of knowledge bear witness that there is no deity except Him upholding justice.
Wow.
It's such a powerful statement about the connection between true knowledge and the establishment of justice, all under the authority of Allah.
Right.
And Muhammad, peace be upon him, stands as the seal of the prophets.
Conqueror of Al-Quds.
Right.
And the founder of its centrality as a land of justice.
This is blowing my mind. But there's another layer to this. Our sources propose this incredible idea.
What's that?
That the name Qasanin went beyond time and geography to become a symbol of the New Jerusalem. It's like the essence of the sacred land was carried forward, even as empires rose and fell.
Yeah, and this leads us to the city of Constantinople, founded by Emperor Constantine.
Right.
You know, the city inherited the name Qasanin, which signals a continuation of that original meaning, rooted in Baka, Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
Yeah.
It's like they were trying to recreate that sanctity, imbue Constantinople with that same aura of divine rule.
But was this transfer just symbolic?
It's a good question.
Or were they actually trying to replicate the holiness of Al-Quds in a new location?
I think that's a great question. And while the intention may have been to connect Constantinople to the holiness of Jerusalem,
the true essence remained in the blessed land of Palestine.
I see.
You know, Constantinople was a reflection, an echo.
Yeah.
But the source remains.
So it's like a spiritual echo resonating across time and space.
I like that, yeah.
To understand this further, I think we need to look at the concept of the Wasat.
Yeah.
Which means middle nation, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah 2.143.
Right.
This nation, which is centered in Jerusalem, embodies justice and righteousness.
Right.
And its name was symbolically transferred to Constantinople as a way of expressing that commitment to just rule.
Right, exactly.
Wow, it's like Constantinople became this symbolic representation of that ideal, carrying forward the legacy of Quthan. But we have another fascinating thread to unravel here.
Okay.
And it involves the Quranic term room and its connection to Marwa, which is the hill in Baka, Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
Right.
Considered one of Allah's clear signs.
Yeah.
So Surah Aram 30.1-4 speaks of the Romans being defeated in the nearest land and then ultimately winning. And our sources clarify that the nearest land is actually the area around Al-Quds in the Dead Sea where Al-Marwa is located.
It's a fascinating piece of linguistic analysis, isn't it?
I know. So Rum isn't just about the Byzantine Romans, but it points to the blessed land of Al-Marwa itself.
Exactly.
It's like a hidden geographical clue in the Quran.
Right. And the fact that Marwa becomes Rum in non-Arabic tongues just emphasizes this point. You know, that the shift in language hides the origin, but doesn't erase it.
Right.
And the rock, Al-Marwa, and the Kaaba create three interconnected circles, you know, which is a pattern that's actually similar to Plato's description of Atlantis.
Wait, Atlantis. Now that's a connection I didn't see coming.
It's pretty fascinating, right?
Yeah.
These three circles represent distinct but interconnected spheres. Al-Masjid al-Haram, the sacred mosque encompassing the city.
Okay.
Al-Bayt al-Haram, the sacred house, the Kaaba.
Okay.
And Al-Mashar al-Haram, the sacred site, the rock.
Okay.
Each has a unique significance,
right?
But it contributes to a larger, unified whole.
It's like a spiritual blueprint.
Yeah.
Some kind of like cosmic map.
Yeah, I like that.
Leading us to a deeper understanding of the sacred. But hold on, we're just getting started. We still need to explore the secular historical perspective on Constantinople.
Right.
And there's this incredible connection between the Arabic name for Medina, Yathrib, and the concept of utopia. Stick with us. It's going to get even more mind-blowing.
Definitely. Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit and delve into the secular historical perspective on Constantinople, drawing insights from the excerpt Constantinople, the New Jerusalem. It's important to remember that while the Byzantines associated Constantinople with Jerusalem symbolically, they wouldn't have literally called it Jerusalem.
Right. It was more of a spiritual and symbolic connection, a way to elevate Constantinople's status, give it a sense of legitimacy.
Exactly. And this association kind of played out in several ways. One interesting example is the acquisition of relics.
Okay.
Just as Jerusalem held religious importance because of sites like the Holy Sepulchre and the True Cross, Constantinople sought to bolster its own religious significance by acquiring relics from other cities.
Right.
It's like they were trying to concentrate holiness.
Right.
Like drawing on the spiritual energy of these sacred objects.
That's so interesting because early Christians didn't have established sacred sites.
Right.
In the same way that Islam reveres Mecca and Medina.
Yeah.
So relics became these incredibly important focal points for their faith.
Absolutely. And there's this great story about St. Daniel the Stylite.
Oh, okay.
You know, the pillar dweller.
Yeah.
Who wanted to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem.
Okay.
And he was advised to go to Constantinople instead.
Oh, wow.
Because it was considered a second Jerusalem.
Wow.
Brimming with relics and places of prayer.
So even in the 5th century, Constantinople was already being seen as like a spiritual substitute for Jerusalem.
Yeah, precisely. And this association served both political and theological agendas.
Okay.
You know, the Byzantine Empire drew its ideology from this mix of Hellenistic, Roman, and Christian sources. Right. But with the Old Testament really heavily influencing their political thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the Old Testament is full of stories about kings and empires, prophecies about chosen people and divine favor. So it's easy to see how the Byzantines would draw these parallels between their own empire and the ancient kingdom of Israel.
Right.
With Constantinople as their Jerusalem.
Exactly. Concepts like universal monarchy and translatio imperi, the transfer of world rule, were like at the core of their worldview. They believed they were carrying forward the legacy of Rome, and through Rome, the legacy of the chosen people of the Old Testament.
It's like they were crafting their own destiny narrative, using these ancient texts to justify their claims to power.
Exactly. And Constantinople, as the New Jerusalem, became the embodiment of that narrative, the center of their empire, the focus of their religious aspirations.
But it's important to note that even though there are these parallels to the New Rome concept, the Byzantine view of Constantinople as the New Jerusalem was more complex.
It was.
They didn't just see it as a replica of the earthly Jerusalem.
No.
But as a reflection of the heavenly Jerusalem.
Absolutely.
Like some mystical ideal projected onto their city.
It was less about like physically copying Jerusalem and more about aspiring to a higher spiritual ideal, reaching for something transcendent, using Constantinople as a connection to the divine.
This whole discussion about Constantinople and New Jerusalem is making me think about utopia.
Oh, interesting.
You know, we usually imagine utopia as this theoretical concept that's ideal, that's impossible to achieve in reality. But what if utopia is actually tied to a specific location?
It's a fascinating question, and actually our sources introduce this surprising connection between the Arabic name for Medina, Yathrib, and the concept of utopia. In Arabic, utopia translates directly to paradise or heaven.
So we're not just talking about some abstract concept, but a real place where divine blessings and righteous living can create a perfect society.
Exactly. And the source, Utopia, Earthly Paradise, and the City of God, Al-Quds, explores this idea in depth, suggesting that a righteous stewardship of the blessed land can lead to an earthly paradise. It's about aligning our actions with divine law, creating this harmonious balance that leads to perfection.
It's not just about the location itself, it's about the people who live there.
Absolutely.
And how they live.
Yes.
They are described as,
believers,
righteous individuals who uphold Allah's commands.
Exactly. And the sources even cite specific verses from the Quran to support this idea. For example, Surah Al-Baqarah 2.82 says those who believe and do good deeds will inherit paradise. While Surah Al-Imran 3.114 describes the righteous as those who encourage good, forbid evil, and hasten to do good deeds.
It's amazing how these ancient texts speak to that, like timeless human longing for a perfect world. And it's not just wishful thinking. It's
a desire.
It's a deep desire to connect with the divine.
Exactly. And the source goes even further to hint at this possible linguistic connection between Yathrib and Utopia.
Oh, wow.
Implying that even Medina's name might be linked to this concept of an ideal society.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like These words carry echoes of ancient wisdom, reminding us that the search for utopia isn't just some philosophical exercise, but a spiritual journey that leads us back to the source of all creation.
Absolutely, but this journey is not always easy.
Right.
You know, our sources also emphasize this recurring theme of betrayal, particularly by the children of Israel. You know, they warn against trusting those who have a history of turning away from truth and violating divine law.
It's a sobering reminder that the pursuit of justice and righteousness often faces opposition.
Yes.
Both internal and external.
Yeah.
It's like this constant battle against these forces that are trying to undermine the divine order.
Our sources point to the children of Israel's presence in Mecca of Petra.
Okay.
Their association with the worship of wealth.
Okay.
And the Kaaba as the palace of Du al-Shara, the star, as examples of this struggle.
Okay.
They caution against their deceitful nature
Right.
and their tendency towards corruption and bloodshed.
And these warnings feel incredibly relevant today.
Oh, yeah.
In a world where corruption, greed, and violence often dominate the headlines.
That's a good point.
It's like a reminder to stay vigilant, to hold on to truth, and to never compromise our principles, even when things get tough.
Absolutely. And the Quran reflects these sentiments, too. You know, warning believers against trusting those who disbelieve and transgress against Allah's commands.
Yeah.
Surah at Tawbah, 9.1, declares a disassociation from those who break their covenants, while Surah Al-Isra, 17.60, speaks of the accursed tree, which is a symbol of those who choose darkness over light.
These warnings are so powerful and remind us that the pursuit of utopia isn't just about creating a perfect world, but about constantly guarding against those who would destroy it.
Yes, it's a constant battle.
It's a battle for the soul of humanity.
It is, and this leads us to one of the most exciting parts of our deep dive.
Okay.
The exploration of tongue phonetics and the signs of the Quran, as described by Dr. Khaled Waleed.
Okay.
You know, this method unlocks hidden meanings within language, exposing historical distortions and suppressed truths.
Wow.
Especially regarding Palestine.
I love this idea. It's like using language as a tool to reclaim the narrative, to unearth the truth that's been buried under these layers of misinterpretations and propaganda.
Right. So Dr. Khaled Waleed distinguishes between the unchanging Arabic of the Quran and the constantly evolving non-Arabic languages. By looking at the phonetics of words, we can discover connections that have been obscured by linguistic shifts and intentional distortions.
Could you give us an example of how this works?
Of course. Take the Hebrew name Kiryat Arba, which supposedly means city of four. Through the lens of tongue phonetics, it actually translates to Qoryat al-Arab, meaning village of the Arabs.
Wow.
This reveals a deliberate effort to suppress the Arab presence in Palestine.
Wow.
An attempt to erase their claim to the land.
It's incredible how language can be used to manipulate history.
It is.
But also to reclaim it.
Yeah.
By uncovering these linguistic links, we're challenging the dominant narrative.
Absolutely.
And revealing a more accurate and inclusive understanding of the past.
And this method can be applied to other names as well. For example, Quraysh, the tribe of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is believed to have come from the word Qaryat al-Munshar, meaning village of the diffuser spread, which links it to Al-Quds, Jerusalem.
Wow, so even the name of the prophet's tribe connects back to the blessed land.
It does.
It's like these linguistic threads are weaving this tapestry of history, connecting people and places and events in ways that we never imagined.
Exactly, and if we look at Jerusalem itself,
we
find that its Arabic root, Dar as-Salam, meaning abode of peace, is embedded in its phonetics.
Wow.
This shows how the true essence of a place can be preserved within language, even as its name changes across cultures and time.
This is just incredible. It's like we're peeling back layers of history, revealing these hidden connections and suppressed truths.
It is.
That have been obscured for far too long.
And these revelations have huge implications for how we understand the world, our place in it, and the ongoing struggle for justice, righteousness, and the creation of a truly utopian society.
This has been mind-blowing. But our deep dive isn't over yet. We need to explore the implications of these discoveries and delve into the mysteries surrounding the name Constantine himself. Stay with us as we continue our exploration of these fascinating topics. As we've been piecing together this intricate puzzle of language, history, and spirituality, it's become increasingly clear that Constantine is so much more than a name.
It really is.
It's a concept, a symbol, like this bridge between ancient wisdom and our modern world.
And all of these threads lead back to Al-Quds,
Yeah.
the heart of this whole narrative.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how these threads, from Arabic roots to hidden geographical clues in the Quran, even a possible connection to Atlantis.
Right.
It's mind-blowing how it all comes together.
Yeah, it is.
But there's still this one piece of the puzzle that I think we need to examine.
Okay.
The name Constantine itself. We've talked about the concept of Quantinin.
Right.
And how it was symbiotically transferred to Constantinople.
Right.
But what about the man behind the name?
Yeah.
Emperor Constantine.
Good point.
What's his role in this intricate story?
Well, the sources suggest that Constantine's adoption of Christianity and his subsequent founding of Constantinople were definitely significant events,
Okay.
but not in the way that traditional history often portrays them.
Okay, so walk me through this. What's the alternative perspective on Constantine and his legacy?
Well, our sources propose that Constantine's conversion to Christianity was more of a political strategy than a genuine spiritual transformation.
Interesting.
They argue that he saw Christianity as a unifying force that could consolidate his power and legitimize his rule.
So he was using religion as a tool to achieve his political ambitions.
Exactly. And this ties into the concept of translatio imperii.
Okay.
The transfer of world rule, which was really central to the Byzantine worldview.
Right.
By associating himself with Christianity and claiming a connection to the legacy of Rome,
Right.
Constantine was essentially positioning himself as the rightful heir to a divinely ordained empire.
It's like he was crafting this whole destiny narrative.
Yeah.
Using religion and history to justify his claims to power.
Exactly. And the founding of Constantinople as the new Rome was a key part of this narrative.
Right.
It was a way to solidify his authority, project this image of imperial grandeur, and establish this new center of power that rivaled and perhaps even aimed to supersede the old Rome.
But we've also talked about how Constantinople was viewed as the new Jerusalem, a reflection of the heavenly city.
Right.
So how does that fit into this narrative of political ambition?
That's where the layers of symbolism get even more fascinating.
Okay.
By associating Constantinople with Jerusalem, Constantine was tapping into a very rich vein of religious and cultural significance.
Okay.
He was aligning himself with the sacred history of the children of Israel, claiming this spiritual lineage that extended back to the prophets and patriarchs of the Old Testament.
So he was using both the New Rome and New Jerusalem concepts to bolster his legitimacy and create this very powerful image of both imperial and spiritual authority.
Exactly. It was a brilliant strategy, weaving together all these threads of history, religion, and political ambition to create this very compelling narrative that resonated with his subjects and solidified his grip on power.
This is really fascinating. But it also raises a question for me.
Okay.
If Constantine's motivations were primarily political, does that diminish the significance of Constantinople as a spiritual center?
Not necessarily. Remember, the true essence of cuisine remained rooted in Al-Quds.
Right.
The blessed land of Palestine, Constantinople, with its borrowed name and its symbolic associations, became a kind of echo.
I see.
A reflection.
So like a pale imitation.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
But it's important to acknowledge that Constantinople did become this significant center of Christianity, shaping religious thought and practice for centuries.
Right.
Its legacy, although intertwined with all this political maneuvering, cannot be easily dismissed.
Right. It's like we're being challenged to view history with a much more critical eye.
Yeah.
To see beyond the surface narratives and recognize the complex interplay of power, religion, and human ambition.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to that overarching theme of our deep dive.
Yeah.
The search for truth.
Right.
It's a journey that requires us to question assumptions.
Yeah.
Dig deeper. Be open to alternative perspectives.
Yeah, I completely agree. This exploration of Quasi has been, well, eye-opening, to say the least.
It really has.
It's pushed me to reconsider what I thought I knew about history, language, and the enduring power of symbolism.
Yeah, and I hope it sparked your curiosity.
Absolutely.
And encouraged you to continue exploring these fascinating topics, long after our deep dive is over.
Definitely. There's still so much to uncover.
Oh, yeah.
So many hidden connections waiting to be revealed.
Absolutely.
Who knows what other mysteries lie hidden within the names and stories that shape our understanding of the world?
And that's perhaps the most important takeaway from our deep dive.
Okay.
The realization that the search for truth is an ongoing journey.
Right.
And every discovery leads to new questions and deeper insights.
Well said. On that note, I think it's time to wrap up this incredible deep dive.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the intricate connections between language, history, and spirituality, and that you continue to seek out hidden meanings and challenge conventional wisdom.
Definitely.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep diving deep.
أنا دكتور خالد وليد، ربان سفينة النجاة إلى شواطئ بكة القدس. I am Dr. Khaled Waleed, the captain of the ship of salvation to the shores of Baka, Jerusalem.